Welcome everybody to Tuesday night. I'm your host MCToon, and we're going to be watching a live rocket launch of Starship. This is a a rather large skyscraper that's made of metal and full of boomy stuff. It's going to go up into space, and we're going to watch it. I have it going right now on the other screen here. Here we go. There it is.
Got my trusty super heavy here. We're going to intentionally try to flip straight up. So again, as you're separating from the ship, we want to get to here as you're doing that boost back burn. The fastest way is to just flip straight up and go into it. That's roughly what we did on Flight 5. It's the most direct way to get into that orientation for the boost back burn. What you don't want to do is when you flip all the way down like that. We did that on Flight 7. It takes you in a big loop, uses the most amount of prop, not efficient. We're at the point where we want to start kind of tuning it in and getting some extra performance out of the booster.
Yeah, exactly. That's called optimization.
Right.
To accomplish this, we made some changes to the hot stage adapter, welding reinforced panels over the vents in the direction that we want the booster to go. So when the ship engines ignite, the thrust will push against the blocked vents, which means that the nudge will be in the direction that we planned for. And then when we go to the next generation of ship and booster, we plan to control the flip direction by fine-tuning the engine startup sequence on the ship.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
that's what I found it. A second audio channel came in automatically. Oh, weird. All right. Got it. So there.
By sending the booster out to sea, we're able to do these higher risk tests without risking the launch pad. As you might have heard earlier, we're going to be doing what's called a higher angle of attack. Basically, instead of coming straight down, we're going to tilt up a little bit. That gets you more drag on the booster. You're able to use just aerodynamic forces to slow you down. The slower you're going at the start of that landing burn, the less propellant you need, because really you're just focused on slowing down as much as humanly possible when you fire that up. So by already going a little bit slower, we'll get some benefits to our performance and our...
It's rocketly possible, not humanly possible.
Definite uncertainty in how well the booster's grid fins and structure will be able to control its flight when we get into higher angles.
If you haven't yet, you're going to need your tab. This is exciting.
Heavy boosters at even higher angles of attack. So this test today will give us a better idea of what is feasible. Now, on top of all of this, we're going to see how resilient Super Heavy is to engine failures at the most critical times.
Yeah, we're going to intentionally disable one of those 3 center engines and instead use an engine from the middle ring that's kind of right behind it. Those center engines are what we nominally use at the very last part of a landing burn as you're just kind of fine-tuning the booster's path into those waiting chopstick arms. This is going to act as a real-world simulation of a pretty scary situation where engines are not starting at probably the worst possible time, but we're going to do this without risking the pad. And then at the very end of the landing burn, we're going to cut one more engine off and go down to only those.
Okay, so what's they're testing Starship. So the last two, this is Starship version 2, the top part, version 2. And the first 2 times that it flew, things did not go well. This is the 3rd time. They're hoping that it doesn't have the same problems as it had before. There's some people think that it might have been a pogo problem where there's a harmonic bouncing in the fuel going into the tank. CSI Starbase is a channel that's gone through some cool stuff analyzing that potential. So they're going to see if that's one of the things they're going to be looking at. And as they were just talking about, they're on the booster, the bottom part, they're going to, do a soft catch. So the tower on land is going to think that it's catching it. And the booster is going to be over water thinking that it's getting caught by the chopsticks. And so the chopsticks will move while the booster, which is nowhere near, is coming into land. And, and then it'll land in the water. Now, this booster is reused. They caught it 2 flights ago, so it's a reused booster. It's pretty cool. Anyway, that's Bob and Doug, I think. They're not going up right now. That's not Bob and Doug. But so, and as you heard, they're going to intentionally have one of the 3 center rockets engines not fire, and then the ship will have to figure out how to deal with it, and so it's going to fire up another booster. And they all gimbal, so they all move around so that it's pretty so that they can steer while they're coming down. So anyway, that's what they're doing. It's Dave McKeegan says, so it's like trying to catch a frisbee whilst blind drunk. Could be. They're showing video maybe from the Fram 2 flight. Man, look at that. How would you like to? Oh, that'd be so freaky. I would love to go on Fram 2. That's so cool. Anyway, so most likely a big bada boom. No, they're hoping that there isn't a bada boom happening this time. We're 9 minutes out. Yeah, so the first 2 of the booster, not the booster, the first 2 of the ship, both 7 and 8, they had issues. So they're hoping that 9 here is not going to have any issues. And they're reusing the booster, the bottom part, and it's landing in the ocean. They're not going to catch it. They're not planning to use it again. Anyway, and they've done some things on some tiles on the Starship there. They've got a lot of those heat tiles, but they've also got some metal tiles that they're trying see if they work. They've intentionally removed a couple tiles to see what happens. They're testing out some different things. They got a bunch of sensors in those locations to check it out, to test different ideas. So anyway, that's what they're doing. Let's see here. We've got Rossi from way in this morning, because I initially had incorrectly scheduled it for 6:15 a.m. instead of 6:15 p.m. A little bit of a fault of mine there. And so I moved it back. So thank you for that, Rossi. Launch time. And then Rossi again said, remember to like and subscribe. So yes, people, definitely do like and subscribe. And then Jack Fetter says, NSF does a better job of covering than SpaceX, believe it or not. And then a link to NSF. They do a great job as well. I actually, in order to make this happen, this is my entire screen, and I don't normally do my entire screen. I normally do a window, but the way that SpaceX is sharing this is through it has to either be in a window, which is rather small, or full screen. Those are the choices for playing it. I was going to hack it to see if I could get it in a medium size, then capture the window, get in a window. But instead, I just did the whole thing. Anyway, so I can't easily switch to a different view, but maybe I'll look at the NSF and maybe watch, if I do this again, watch theirs instead of SpaceX's. So the objective is for the ship is to survive the reentry. Yes, that, and then to come in for a soft landing. So the ship, the top part, is going to do a soft landing somewhere near in the Indian Ocean, and probably off the west coast of Australia. And then they want to do a soft landing there. So it'll come down, it'll like hover, like it's going to get just some little bit above the water, and then it'll turn off and land. So anyway, there we go. Thud says YouTube needs to work on filtering his ad. A lot of them are scams, and one I flagged today had extremely vulgar imagery. Really? All right, let's see what they have to say.
Launching through is looking good for our test flight today. Weather has been great. It was a little rainy and windy this morning, but it cleared up. It looks beautiful here in Starbase, and propellant loading continues on both stages.
All right, yeah, it is continuing. We're a little over 90% full on our booster. We are pretty much full in the main tanks on ship, filling up those header tanks. We're going to continue loading prop for about 2 more minutes. Once we're done with that, you've got just under 11 million pounds of liquid propellant spread across those 2 stages. after we get through all of that prop load, our stage 0 will get ready. The ground systems will go through pushbacks, clearing all of those fluid feed lines back to the propellant farm, getting ready for launch. We did just see they did a flap wiggle check, so the final flap check on the ship. We're doing final alignments of the guidance, navigation, and control system, our thrust vector control, essentially our steering, checkouts of the flight safety system. So everything progressing right now. If we do need to hold, that can come at T-minus 40 seconds. That's a point built into the countdown where we can pause to wait for any final checkouts, pressurizations, anything that we need.
And yes, Witsit is down there vaping. That's Witsit.
That will hold us at T-minus 40 seconds. But if you've seen a Starship launch before, they can happen. We can push through them and then launch that day still.
Exactly. But when we do pass through T-minus 40 seconds, a number of events will occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems come up to flight pressure. Ship goes to internal power. And then after that, the quick disconnect or QD arm lockout is removed in preparation for retraction just shortly after T-minus 0. And once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, we do still have the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds and then hold there to assess what happened and see if we can proceed again back down to T0.
Yeah, there are a couple of things, kind of gates in that timeline that if we pass through that and we hit a hold, we'd have to scrub for the day. One pretty visual one will be if the water starts flowing for that deflector system that's underneath the launch mount. That happens right.
We've got Awake Souls. How you doing, Awake Souls? Remember that time when you had your map that you thought was undebunkable, and I'm like, nothing works on it. And plus, it's a Pac-Man map. You know, the sun goes waka 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 off one side, and then whoop, over here on the other side, sun keeps coming through waka 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 waka. But it doesn't just go straight across; it goes in this wavy pattern. Total nonsense. So silly, Awake Souls. I can't believe you actually thinks that's not ridiculous. It's a joke. You are a joke, but thank you for being the joke for us to laugh at, Awake Souls.
Amazing there with Starship on the launch pad. Just about 2 minutes and 45 seconds from T0 with a lot of objectives for today. The booster, the Super Heavy booster flying today, will be flying for its second time. Last flight was on Flight 7 and just turned around in 2 flights, which is pretty incredible. I'm super excited to see that booster fly again.
All right.
Today I chose my SpaceX mug.
End of the day, we can hold at T-minus 40 seconds for quite a few minutes. We eventually have to start looking at our temperature of all of our propellant on board. That's usually what drives us to, if we've held too long, we have to stand down for the day. So we are expecting a hold at T-minus 40 seconds. Sounds like we're going to be doing some additional checkouts on the booster Raptor while we're at that T-minus 40 second mark. So we will expect to see the clock pause at T-minus 40. And then again, we've got a couple of minutes. They can work through the issues. If we're able to clear them, we can still launch today. If it's something that we can't, we can always stand down, turn around, recycle, fly again tomorrow.
And there's a lot of Witsit vaping going on there. Look at all that.
Is exactly for is to be checking the vehicle, monitoring the vehicle systems as it makes its way down to T0. And again, this gives us the ability to catch anything and be able to hold, as Dan has been saying, and recycle if we need to, or pause so that we can work through those issues and see if it's something that we need to stand down for. And as Dan mentioned, we will be holding at T-minus 40 seconds, so in about 20 seconds from now.
Yeah, so we'll hold there, and they'll work through these final checkouts on, sounds like just one of those Raptors on the first stage on Super Heavy, which, as you said, we're reflying it for the first time. 29 of those 33 engines have already been used in a launch, one of which has already launched
twice, and we'll go for
it is getting ready for its third time. Right. And you just heard our flight director for the day, Joe Sliker. He just shared that we are going to hold at this T-minus 40 second mark. Keep an eye on one of those Raptor engines on booster.
So they are still not taking anything to space like a rocket should, just stupid booster tricks. Well, No, they're bringing stuff to space, because space is 100 kilometers up. So the ship part will. I don't know if the booster will get 100 kilometers
and
up.
And if you're just now jumping in, we are holding still at T-minus 40 seconds. Watching one engine, waiting for temperatures to kind of get to a zone that we want them to on one of the engines on the booster, on the super heavy booster, getting ready for its second ever flight. We'll just continue to hold. Again, we can hang out here for several minutes. We held for a while on the first attempt last time, and then cleared it, and then we triggered a different issue on the ground side.
Oh, come on,
But again, this is exactly
don't
what
scrub
it's
today.
for. This gives us the best chances at success.
And the clock is rolling.
There we go.
Right,
All right.
it's back. We're
T-minus 30. Let's listen in.
Witz's
Watch
vaping
that
has
first flight
filled the
proven
rocket.
super heavy. Get ready to take off from Starbase.
Let's go. Lurk destruction. Let your tears flow, flatties. 15 seconds. All right. All 33 engines. Awake Souls must be crying because there's 33 engines. Oh no! Something happened.
We did have a hold,
Went back up
and
to
looks
41.
like the clock jumped back to T-minus 40 seconds.
All right, so we jumped out. I did not see the deflector
Doesn't
go
look like
off.
a scrub.
So hopefully we were right at around that T-minus 10 second mark.
And if we were before that T-minus 10 second mark, we do have the ability to recycle, as we mentioned earlier, back to T-minus 40 seconds.
So it looked like this time it was a ground side issue. We're taking a look at this real quick. So again, we're back at T-minus 40. We're gonna hold for a little bit. We are still not scrubbed for the day. Give them a couple of minutes to work through this. Again, we can hang out at T-minus 40 for several minutes. Eventually, we start looking at your bulk temperatures and all of your propellant on board the vehicle. We're not actively replenishing the propellant on board Super Heavy and Starship, and so you don't have essentially forever to hang out before things start to warm up, and you do want to make sure your temperature's in a really stable range for a healthy startup on Raptor engines. So they're going to work through this issue. We can continue to hold here for a couple of minutes. What's launch without a little extra added excitement?
Oh dear, Awake Soul saw it say 41 seconds for a little bit. Must be a conspiracy. No, Awake Souls. That's just what they do. It's, oh my gosh, everything's a conspiracy with you idiots. Anyway, they're not saying anything right now. Hopefully, no scrub.
We've held for a little over 3 minutes between the two holds. Again, this is a ground side issue on our tower. The techs are looking through the data right now to see if it's something that we can either work through or if it would cause us to have to stand down. So we're continuing to hang out with them, holding at T-minus 40.
If you're just joining us, we did initially hold at T-minus 40 seconds. We continued the count, but recycled before we got to T-minus 10 seconds. And so we're back at a hold at T-minus 40 seconds. Waiting for more information. The team is checking out to see if we can continue today.
Why are the gas clouds not moving there? They're moving. Oh wait, mine is not. For some reason, it's not updating.
And we're continuing to hold here at T-minus 40 seconds. We've been holding for just about 5 minutes now.
Let me
as the teams evaluate if we can continue to T0 for Flight 9.
Wow, weird. It's not liking it. There we go.
All right, so it sounds like
You're
we're
right, it
coming
was
to a
frozen in
resolution.
OBS. Okay, I got it. It's back. There. Oh, come on. Do it. I mean, you don't want them to go when it shouldn't go. The Raptor rats doing their pre-flight check got delayed there.
All right, so we are getting to a resolution. We're going to reset everything.
Yeah. Okay. Aw. M2M says scrub. Don't say it. I didn't hear it yet. They didn't say it here yet. 40. Now, if this was fake, there would be no
All right,
scrubs.
so we're going to see the clock. It is now rolling.
Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
There we
Essentially,
go.
we saw an issue with that quick disconnect to the ship.
All right.
There is a chance that automation will kick us out again if we encounter the same issue. But for now, the clock is rolling. We'll see if we pass around that T-minus 10 second mark.
All right. 15, 13, 12, 11, 10, 7. Okay. There we go. There it's going. We got water. Holy cow. That is insane. That is insane. Cleared the tower. Wow. "500 kilometers an hour.
T plus 40 seconds. It's one hell of a sight from here. We see it arcing right over top of us. We see 33 out of 33 Raptor engines
Look at
lit
that fuel go
on
down.
Super Heavy
How
as it starts to
fast it
ascend skyward.
Dumps that fuel out. CJ Lamoureux. Oh my gosh.
Coming up on maximum aerodynamic pressure, then only about a minute and a half until we get into hot staging.
That staging is so
Wow,
hot.
Dan, that was incredible.
There you go. So this
We
is
can feel
this is
the
on the
building
ship.
shaking here. Feel the vehicle's power. Now we're just about a minute away from shutting down those engines on the booster. Again, this booster is flying for its second time today.
Going well so far.
All right, so hot staging coming up a little under a minute. We're going to see all but the 3 center
collision.
engines turn off
Is
on
it
the
gonna hit the
booster. So
firmament?
our version of MECO, most engines cut off. And then just a few seconds later, hoping to see 6 engines ignite on ship to push it away.
Look at the fuel. You can see the fuel on the bottom left there. They still are like, a little under a quarter.
All right, hot staging, about 30 seconds.
3,700 kilometers an hour. It's incredible.
And definitely keep an eye on which way the booster flips.
4,000.
First ever directional flip we're going for today should flip straight up.
Halfway to space.
See those engines powering down?
Booster engine cutoff.
There you go. Just 3 engines going for the hot stage. There's the hot stage.
Ship ignition. Stage separation.
There you go. And it flipped it. And the Starship,
Incredible
the ship
flip
is going.
by Super Heavy booster, and you can see those 6 engines, those 3 engines on the ship ignited.
That's cool.
6 healthy Raptors running on ship on its way to space. Peek that engine view. Booster doing the boost back. Chris, how's it looking over there in Hawthorne, man?
It is looking
chamber pressure is nominal.
It is looking absolutely incredible here in Hawthorne. As we said, 6 healthy engines on ship. We've got 13 out of 13 engines on the booster. Now down to those 3, which is what we expect in the final moments of the boost back burn. Now, as a reminder, we are not recovering the super heavy booster today. We are instead going to do some
shutdown.
And there we had a good shutdown of the boost back burn. Next up will be the jettison of that hot stage ring.
Avionics tower and telemetry nominal.
Great call out there that everything looking nominal aboard the super heavy vehicle, which is returning to Earth, and we're going to be doing some experiments with it, including a higher angle of attack re-entry, as well as some engine tests as it gets closer to the Gulf. We are, again, because of these tests not recovering it, we are sending it to the Gulf on purpose to do those tests. But again, you see the booster on the left.
That curve is barrel distortion.
Healthy engines continuing its ascent to its planned suborbital trajectory. Everything going very well so far for Starship's 9th flight. Now 4 minutes, 15 seconds in. Great views from inside of the...
For the record, I don't know if this lens here that we're looking at on the right side has barrel distortion or not.
On the right-hand side of your screen, the booster doing its LOX dump, that liquid oxygen dump. So because we don't need some of that liquid oxygen propellant in its tanks, we vent that propellant out to lessen the booster's mass as it comes in for its landing.
Starship
just absolutely gorgeous views watching these two
doing
vehicles
better
do their respective
than last
things
time
in the skies over Texas here today. And Dan, we're approaching the 5-minute mark into the flight. Super Heavy is descending rapidly. What can we expect here in the next few minutes as it does its atmospheric tests?
Yeah, now as we had talked about, Super Heavy might not have a very smooth ride down. We're going to be putting it through this higher angle of attack. So we're kind of pitching it up a tiny bit, increasing drag. We've done this in wind tunnels. We've done this in computer modeling. It shows that sometimes the control isn't great.
I said initially look at the curve, but I didn't know if that one was
real world data. So here comes Super
outside
Heavy.
Definitely has barrel distortion.
It should be igniting for its landing burn in just about 40 seconds from now.
And we are going to relight 13 engines, then bring that down to 3 engines. As we talked about earlier, we will be intentionally shutting down. We will be shutting down one of those 3 center engines intentionally to push the limits of the Super Heavy booster.
Raptor chamber pressure is nominal.
And continuing to see 6 healthy engines on the ship, 3 sea level and 3 vacuum engines still ignited as the Super Heavy booster is making its way back down to Earth.
We can see those grid fins doing some heavy work.
Booster landing startup.
I don't know if that's not
ignited
what they
for
said.
our landing burn.
And they went off. Oh. So that camera wasn't in the right spot. It was probably on land, and it's landing on water.
It may have ended with that landing burn.
It didn't. It might have been.
It does look like we lost telemetry from the booster.
Rocket go down, go boom, boom.
Burn. Did you see confirmation that the booster did demise?
It hit the waters below, not the waters above.
Ending before it was able to get through landing burn, but again, we are not bringing that back. We're expecting it to make a hard splashdown in the...
Okay, so this one here, this is definitely a barrel distortion lens in here as well.
Flight, so that was something that was really vital for us to get during this reuse. First reflighted booster in the books. All right, ship has about 2 minutes left.
I love when the flurfs show up and they're like, "Oh, you think you have a point? You're literally watching a rocket above Earth, hundreds of 150 kilometers high. It's not flat, you idiots."
Some incredible views, Dan, from the aft end of the ship, watching as the engines stay ignited with the Earth in the background.
As always, the Starship avionics team, the techs. I think we just heard the booster. But all right, we got about a minute left into this burn. All eyes definitely.
Oh, they maybe heard the booster hit because it takes time for the sound to travel.
We're expecting it to start to cut those engines off in about 45 seconds.
Terminal guidance.
All right, it's going well. Did I see the?
All right, just about 30 seconds to go.
These flighties are so dumb. They think when there's
We're
a glitch,
in terminal guidance.
that it's something that
the
helps
final
them.
stages of this Ascent burn.
The like a glitch in the video.
We did
the
see
opposite of what they
shutdown
think
of the
it
Raptor
shows.
engines. We do stagger these, so we do the Raptors first. Those 3 have shut down successfully. Sea levels still running.
Ship engine cut off.
Nice. We did not get this far last time.
Ship engine cut off, the 3 most beautiful words in the English language.
And great call out that we had nominal insertion.
That's cool. Yeah,
An
nothing
incredible
exploded.
flight test so far today.
They were all super nervous to
a
get this
super
far.
heavy
so
booster for
that's
the
good
very
news.
first time in 9 test flights. Ship is in its orbital trajectory. Again, it's going to remain suborbital for its mission today.
People read the Austin wife spit name very carefully.
6 of its engines and made it all the way through SECO just now.
Gas is coming out of there. I don't know if that's supposed to or not. Maybe they are, maybe they're not.
What a moment.
Incredible.
All right. I mean, that's still lots to come for the rest of.
So does it have cargo? It has some Starlink simulator satellites. And they're going to try relighting one of the rockets. While I'm at it, Pable 73 for 750 UYU. I need to know what that is. I'll have to look it up. Says amazing. Any bubbles yet? Hee hee. No bubbles yet. No bubbles yet. But we'll keep watching. I've seen like chunks of frozen stuff flake off, though.
Team's hard work in action here today. As guaranteed, it has been an exciting evening.
Uruguayan pesos. Very nice. Thank you.
PM after a couple of holds that were triggered at the T-minus 40-second mark, but we were able to clear those, 1 on the Raptor, 1 on the tower, and we were able to lift off successfully from Starbase. 33 out of 33 Raptor engines lit on the Super Heavy, all 6 engines lit on ship, bringing it to its planned suborbital trajectory around Earth. But
okay, so they don't have, this isn't a payload thing. They do have some payload that they're going to try because they've got what they call the Pez dispenser, where it's like they have a stack of satellites that go through a little slot. So they're going to try that. They're going to try relighting a Raptor engine in space. And people don't really realize the engines that they're using on here is first of a kind in several ways. They are full flow combustion engines, which is prior to this, the only full flow combustion engines was a Russian one that used hypergolic fuels, and that was in the 60s and maybe early 70s, but I think mainly just the 60s. It in the 70s because the Buran rocket used it as well, I think. Anyway. That was the only previous full flow staged combustion engine. And that's a big deal. Number 1. Number 2, this is the first rocket to use methane as fuel instead of either kerosene or hydrogen, or the common ones that are not super bad, or hypergolic, which are toxic. Hypergolic ones are toxic, but the cool thing about hypergolic is that when they meet, you have one fuel and the one and the other. When they get together, they just burn. They don't need an igniter or anything. They just do that. It says the engine is burned. Well, there's no engines on right now. So, so can we see the pizza from outer space? No. So this is all Starlink, by the way, that's transmitting this data. So now the re-entry is the challenging part of it because it gets a bit hot.
More to come as we get ready for Starship's first ever payload deploy. What can we expect next here in the next few minutes?
Thanks, Chris. Just going to reiterate, thank you to the Starlink team for these incredible views today. In a few minutes, Starship will deploy 8 Starlink simulators, similar in size to our next-generation Starlink satellites. The Starlink simulators will be on the same suborbital trajectory as Starship, meaning they will passively re-enter the atmosphere, just like Starship. With tests like these, we can see how Starship's payload deploy systems work in flight while ensuring that this simulator satellites pose no safety risk to people on Earth or for other satellites in orbit. Now, this also ensures that any parts of these simulator Starlink satellites that do survive re-entry splash down harmlessly in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
And then before we get there, though, we're going to have to open up that payload deploy door. So we've only ever done that one time before. Pretty sure it was Flight 3. Someone on the internet, please check me. But that was the only time we ever opened it. And we've had Starlink simulators on the last 2 flights, but we haven't gotten to this moment yet where we're able to open up the payload door and start deploying these. It's going to be pretty cool. We've got them stacked inside of the Starship payload bay, and we'll have potentially a couple of views. You saw one camera pop up. Oh, there we go.
Cool.
Look inside of the payload bay of Starship. You can see them stacked down in the middle of your view. There's kind of 4 on either side, so they're sandwiched on top of each other, stack up.
So that's probably like chunks of frost that's now loose inside
your screen. So we'll see that open up and then start firing those Starlink simulators out into space.
We are expecting the payload door to open in a little over a minute from now. And then once that payload door is open, about a couple minutes later is when we will start dispensing those Starlink simulators. What a great
right
view.
At the bottom of the stack. So should be able to see them kind of firing out from right there. So really cool. And eventually these are going to carry dozens of the next generation of Starlink satellite into space, and those are going to enable some truly insane things in terms of speeds from space and what we're able to do. Starlink's been really great for Starship.
Pretty clear barrel distortion on the sides there.
Cool, but just the amount of high-speed telemetry, everything we're able to get back is insane. And for a development program, that's kind of everything. We're in excess of 130 or 160. My numbers are fuzzy right now, just like my brain is. But well in excess of 100 megabits per second of downlink, and a lot of that gets eaten up by video. We've got dozens of cameras across Starship. We added several more for this flight. You saw a couple of those as we have essentially 360 degrees.
Look how all the stuff is going one direction, right? Because it's like it's moving a little bit and there's a tiny bit of air. So maybe it's like slowing, I don't know. But it might be using the RCS thrusters to like change its orientation and stuff too. Really cool. Seeing the inside. But they're going to open the door soon, I supposedly, I guess.
The payload door to open any moment now, so we're watching out for that. Again, you're looking at the inside of Starship.
Imagine how mentally challenged you have to be as a flat earther to watch this and be like, it's still flat. Earth's still flat. It can't be, right? You're mentally challenged if you're watching this and trying to hold on desperately to the lie of flat Earth.
It was unable to actuate all the way open, so they are going to close it back up.
Oh no,
Hal
they
told me
couldn't open
no.
it. What?
Said, I'm sorry, Dan. Can't do that. Looks like we won't get the door open today.
Too bad.
But that's okay. This is obviously a test we want to be able to do before we're deploying full-on Starlinks. But the real focus for this, now that we are in space, is getting to that reentry. That is the most critical phase of Starship that we still have to prove out.
I love the direction of the stuff.
All right, well,
as it's moving.
So it does look like
cool.
we're not going to be able to deploy Starlinks today, but we should have pretty frequent views from Starship. They might cut in and out every once in a while, but should be pretty regular. We are in darkness right now.
We got Kango44 for 10 Kiwi bucks says, this is awesome. Then you have spastics on the internet like Witsit, who just spew diluted garbage. Durr, we don't know how the moon works. Durr. Exactly. You're like, you think you're smarter than everybody else, and you figured things out, but you can't even explain the moon. You're dumb. Rossi says, I'm really impressed by the graphics in the release of Grand Theft Aerospace. I know. So good. Oh yeah, PJ CNET is here with his Papa Flurfs, Ronnie James Dio Shine, and Jason Laughingberg. I mean, what kind of, seriously, how mentally challenged do you have to be to watch this? Be like, Earth flat. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. You're not a truther. You love lies, right? I used a Starlink satellite service in Antarctica. There was no cell phone service. I brought with me an RF frequency spectrum analyzer. No cell phone signals, none. We put the Starlink panel up on the roof, and then watched it go. Like set it up, connected it, and then we had fast network. It was amazing. It was super cool. And how did we get that? We were hundreds of miles from anything. and here, yeah, they're like Pac-Man Earth. Waka, 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 waka. And it zips to the other side. Waka, waka, waka. And then what does he say? He's like, that's a straw man. That's not what we actually think. Well, I've seen your map. That's what you actually think. The sun does this wavy pattern, gets to one edge, and then is over on the other edge. How does that happen? You're like, oh, it's a simulation. Okay, so everything that doesn't work is a simulation to you. So everything in the simulation looks like the Earth is a globe, but it's still flat because it has to be flat. That doesn't make any sense. Every single time you run up against a wall with your goofy flatness garbage, and you go back to it's a simulation, you are admitting that even if it is a simulation, in the simulation it's a globe. You lose either way. You're just all around a loser. How sad. All right, they're just playing some music right now, so and so I don't know what okay, so there's a timer there on the bottom. So this one here is, they tried the deploy. We're past deploy. So over here, this is the upcoming stuff. So nothing is upcoming at this moment. So the memory map in the simulator is flat. I don't know. Maybe it's flat because the memory system, it doesn't use paged memory. It uses a flat memory. I don't know. It's so silly. So anyway, so just so you know, about an hour from now, I will be debating QOP. He thinks that the trip to Antarctica, he doesn't think it was real. He is unaware, apparently, that thousands of people go to Antarctica every year, and people have been going to Antarctica for over 100 years and seeing the 24-hour sun for over 100 years. It's amazing that somebody can be that gullible and indoctrinated to think it doesn't exist. So, is Awake Souls, is it his claim that this is CGI? It must be. That's the other one. It's CGI because it has to be. Is that your answer? Let's see if he has anything here. Scroll back. Maybe he's scampered off. There he is. Imagine being over 10 years old and thinking this is real. Why would you think? All right, yeah. So you think it's CGI. So it's on you to show that this is fake. And of course, these things have been going for decades. So all of them. I mean, this isn't new, right? This is new hardware. This is new techniques. This is new, larger, heavier things. But how do you explain before AI, before CGI, the things? Of course you can't, right? Everything you don't like is fake. It has to be, because you pre-select the conclusion, Earth flat, and then everything that doesn't match, you just ignore. And you call fake. What a sad life. What a sad life. To just be like everything you don't like is fake. But anyway, I'm happy because this is pretty cool stuff. Fun to see these kinds of things happening, and see the possibility that we could have orbiting gas stations. Essentially, is what one of the things they're working on here, is putting up a large enough ship with enough fuel in it to go and meet up with another ship, refuel, land, and then have a topped off ship there, so that and something else can come there and get some fuel. They're talking, in order to do that, they would have to launch multiple times a day. So, and reuse it. So, okay, so I talked a little bit about the full flow staged engine. So I'm not an expert in that topic. I've watched a few things and read a few things on the history of how it's done, and part of the reason why they're doing it the way they're doing it, right, is because they want to be able to reuse these, so they don't have parts of the engine that get consumed in the use of the engine. So if you hear the word ablative, things that are ablative means that they get used up. So if you have an ablative heat shield, that when the heat shield gets used, when you get to the ground, the heat shield has to be removed and replaced, or you just throw away the whole thing. And so like the Apollo capsules were all ablative, and then they didn't reuse them. So you can find the Apollo capsules in different museums, the actual capsules, and you can look underneath at the heat shield, and you can see that a lot of them have worn off. But like on the space shuttle, which I just saw, Space Shuttle Atlantis in Florida at Cape Canaveral, its heat shield is not ablative. It stays on, and of course you need to make sure they're still on after you get back. You don't just jump in the car again and assume it all works. You got to check it all. So Baba Ali says everything is ablative. Some things are just harder than others. That's true. That's true. So some engines, sometimes the engines are like inside the bell. It's the surface of that is ablative, and so at the end of being used, the whole thing can't be used again. But SpaceX doesn't want to do that. They want to reuse everything. So they've made decisions about how to build these rockets so that they can reuse them. And so one of the things on the full flow staged combustion engine is for reusability and trade-offs, right? So engineering is all about trade-offs. So they use on the space shuttle used hydrogen and oxygen. The big tank on the space shuttle, a lot of it was hydrogen. but hydrogen has a low energy to mass and energy to size ratio. So you need a larger tank to get the same amount of energy. Kerosene is on the other end of the spectrum. Kerosene is what's used by a lot of rockets, and that has a rather high ratio. Methane is in the middle. It's closer to kerosene. So it's a trade-off for that, and part of the reason of the trade-off is because they think that they can manufacture parts of it on Mars, parts of methane on Mars, but they couldn't manufacture parts of kerosene on Mars. So they'd have to bring all the kerosene with them to Mars to get back home, or bring some component and then use Mars's atmosphere, use the components in Mars's atmosphere. So I think that they'd have to bring hydrogen, and then they can manufacture with carbon dioxide, if I'm remembering it correctly. This is just from memory. Manufacture methane through a process. Or maybe it's, anyway, that is one of the ideas and one of the reasons why they chose methane. So what is full flow? Okay, so I can't explain that very well. So when in a rocket engine, you have to pump the fuel and you have to pump it into the combustion chamber. So you have a pump that's running. And so you could run a full electric. You could just have it be an electric pump. Okay, still just playing some music. And so you could just have electric pumps, but you'll run out of, it's a lot of battery power now. There's all these trade-offs. Engineering, right, is trade-offs. So then there's other things that you could do. You could have you could siphon off a little bit of oxygen, a little bit of propellant, and run a turbo pump. Burn them and run a pump, and then that'll turn a turbine. You can do that, and then that gets wasted, right? And and things like the RS-25, which is from the space shuttle engines, it does something like that. Don't quote me on exactly, please. That was pretty cool. Where are they? A lot of that video is not looking good. I don't know what that is. No, just music. Okay, so they're coming back.
And the ship is on its suborbital trajectory. As you can see in some of the views and from some of the telemetry, we are in a little bit of a spin. We did spring a leak in some of the fuel tank systems inside of Starship, which a lot of those are used for your attitude control. And so at this point, we've essentially lost our attitude control with Starship. We are still on a path toward re-entry. We are suborbital, so no matter what, we are going to enter. However, this lowers the chances for it to be a controlled re-entry. So if you think back to Flight 3, when we had something similar happen, just the end symptom of a loss of attitude control, we were in a roll by the time we hit re-entry. So we are going to re-enter. We should hopefully still have views. The Starlink satellites are pretty robust to still maintaining contact. We've got 4 of those terminals on the vehicle, and they're pretty robust to maintaining contact even when we are in a spin, essentially. So we should hopefully continue to keep live views. It's going to still be dark until we get a little bit closer to entry, as we are a little bit, we're coming up on Africa. I believe we do swing just to the south of that continent. And by the time we start heading out over the Indian Ocean, we'll start heading into a sunrise. So not looking great with a lot of our on-orbit objectives for today, where we were hoping.
Adjust your helmet. It's going to be raining rocket.
Really importantly, get into that controlled entry to really put the heat shield through the ringer. Nonetheless, Starship marching forward towards that re-entry over the Indian Ocean. So we'll continue to hang with it and give you any updates as things continue to change.
Okay, back to full flow. So, yes, Everyday Astronaut does have a great video. I watched that one. I watched another one by Terran Space something. So there's multiple ways to use the fuel you have to turn the pumps. So a full flow, basically you take the full flow of oxygen and you inject a little bit of fuel and you burn it. But it's only all of the fuel will burn and leaving much of the oxygen unburnt. But that expands and then that will turn a pump. And you do the same on the other side. You take the full fuel and you have a little bit of oxygen go in there and you burn that. And that will then, those two things, right, they both cause a little bit of it turns the turbines. Anyway, and so then you have some burned fuel in both of them, but it's okay because that's just mixed in with the rest. And so that's essentially how it's done. Very simplified. And I only have a very simple understanding of it myself anyway, but it's a pretty cool way to do it. But like I said, this is basically only the second rocket that's ever done this. And as far as I know, this is the first methane-based rocket to get to orbit or suborbital height. So 150 kilometers at the moment. So first one that's been rather high. So that's what we got. That's a full flow. That's a really poor explanation of it. But it's like it's a little bit of the, well, if you're gonna do it right, I think is the thing. Nobody's figured it out before. Why? Well, because it's complicated, and they didn't they had budgets constraints and time constraints and whatever. I think the decision was, well, we need to have a rocket engine that's just a really good engine, and let's just put in the effort to make it work. So Borg-Emporia, rocket combustion 101. Combustible things do a controlled explosion. If it gets uncontrolled, whole thing goes boom. Exactly. So one of the challenges when you burn something with oxygen is that it gets hot, and hot plus oxygen means things that it touches go away. So that's not good. You don't want oxygen. Oxygen rich environment with a lot of heat will an oxygen rich environment with not high heat turns iron into rust over time. When you do it hot, it does it fast. So everything tends to do that. But SpaceX developed an alloy of, I don't know what it is. I don't think they published it, but that is resistant to that at the temperatures they need. So it'll have issues at a higher temperature than what it experiences. Russia similarly did figured out some type of alloy as well in some of their research in the 60s or 70s. So Eric E. Master of the Flat Earth says, get Dave Weiss to solve the engineering problem. He seems to know everything, of course. The engine, Bobby Ali says the engine itself goes out the exhaust pipe too. Yeah. So yeah, the term engine rich exhaust. So if you see an engine going, they're talking, hold on.
Control on the ship at this point.
They lost it.
It is suborbital, so it's still headed to the exact same trajectory as before. We were not able to get that payload door open and deploy those nose cones. We've been dealing with some leaks on the ship. This is also what led to that loss of attitude control. So at this point, we are kind of in a spin, and we are also going to be skipping that Raptor relight. If you've followed through the history of Starship, something similar happened, different cause but same symptom, back on Flight 3, where we weren't able to maintain attitude control in orbit. And so we're going to skip the relight of that Raptor engine while we're in space. We are going to still proceed with entry, but as we are not able to control the attitude of the ship, as we get into entry, it will enter in whatever orientation it is in at the time, which does not bode well for the ship's heat shield, as we're we're not going to be essentially aligned the way that we want to do for reentry. So it is definitely coming down. It is definitely heading to the Indian Ocean, but our chances of making it all the way down are pretty slim. So we'll still get as much data as we can. We're still getting live telemetry, live views from Starlink the entire time, and we'll continue to stick with ship as it continues on. We are about 10 minutes away or so until we start getting into entry, and the light will start to pick up as we cross the Indian Ocean, and we'll start to see a little bit more daylight, and we'll, as always, as long as we maintain that comm link, get some plasma on the way in and start to bring the Starship back through the Earth's atmosphere. So that coming up in about 10 minutes or so. So we'll check back in with everybody in a little bit.
All right. 10 minutes to when it melts. Unless for some reason it magically orients itself correctly. Because it has the flaps on it. So like it's supposed to like maybe, but I don't, yeah. They're not sounding very hopeful. I have no idea. They call it a rapid unscheduled disassembly, RUD. So yes. Yes, it was suborbital, so it was always re-entering. It's just won't be on, yeah, it won't be controlled. Yes. It's it's too bad. Oh, look at it spin. I mean, that's really moving pretty quickly here. And I think what we're seeing is that's probably like outgassing of stuff. So there's fuel left in it because they were going to come in. It comes in on its belly, and then when it gets to near the surface, then it fires up the engines and they gimbal, and so it makes them makes it flip back vertical. That's the point. But now it won't start getting hot until below 70 kilometers. That's what I think. How is it oriented? It's flipping. It's moving around, and so yeah, what we're seeing is I think the gas is just outgassing. That's why we see like these stripes of stuff. Yeah, look at that, because it's spinning. Wow, it looks like it's spinning pretty stinking fast. So it probably, my guess is it's got like a leak on one side somewhere, and it's accelerating the spin. It would not be fun to be on it right now, I just gotta say. Brenda Create says we had a RUD here, but less high tech. Yes. Brenda sent a video of a car right outside the window that was it was doing a little RUD with some flames coming out, and some firemen like, oh crap, what do we do? Beans make me outgas. Yes. Gimbal, gee boss, we thought you said you wanted gumball. It's probing time says it might fling itself apart spinning like that. Yeah, that's how quickly or how much centrifugal force can it take? Yeah, they stopped showing the attitude control gauge shortly after the spin got out of hand. Yeah. Holy cow. That's so not good. 106 kilometers. 105. It's starting to fall pretty quickly here. I don't know if the color is plasma because it's too high for it's still well above the Kármán line. Well, a little above the Kármán line. But if you watch these before, not a lot starts to happen like with plasma until it gets to about 70 kilometers in elevation. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm guessing that by 70 kilometers it'll cut out. Oh. It might have already. No, not yet. Oh, they're talking here.
The Starship is getting closer to its reentry. If you're just tuning in, we were able to successfully make it to orbit, run into a couple of issues as we've coasted to our entry point over the Indian Ocean. At this point, we had lost attitude control of the ship and entered into a spin. The team made the call to do what's called passivate the vehicle, so we're essentially venting all of the remaining propellant overboard, and it's going to make an uncontrolled reentry. Important to note, this is a contingency that is planned for, and we clear the zones in the Indian Ocean where these entries could take place. So we're not going to come down exactly where we would have had nothing happened, but we do clear a tremendous amount of space out in the Indian Ocean in the event that we run into this. We understand that there are always risks, essentially, with these flight tests, with the hardware, but we don't really accept any compromise when it comes to protecting people.
And it is one thing to note is we will actually still re-enter in our planned airspace zone, which is good. That is exactly what we planned for. We do plan for if something does go a little bit off nominal, that we have enough airspace cleared out for situations just like this.
Yeah, re-entry is still just that really critical phase that we need to try and gather as much data, as much information as possible. Is a fully reusable heat shield has never been flown before in the history of space flight, and that's something that Starship still has to crack. And so we had a whole range of experiments on this one at this point, and we just started to lose some of our cameras, so it's very possible that we'll start to lose contact with Starship a lot sooner than we would have if it was a nominal reentry. So we are expecting it to break up essentially on its reentry over the Indian Ocean. So not able to do a lot of our on-orbit objectives today, but just the fact that we, got it into space was just a really big moment for a lot of the team.
Yeah, and another thing to note is that Super Heavy did fly for its second flight today. It first flew on Flight 7, and it made it all the way.
I think they're mostly just talking here about other stuff, not as important stuff. So let me read a couple things here. Catch up. We got NA says, I'm jealous of people out of US can drop F-bombs in super chat. Yeah, that's weird. MCToon, we are all prob in a simulation. There is no flat or round, just ones and zeros. Well, could be. I think though. Oh, it's back for a second. That 70 kilometers an hour, or 70 kilometers in elevation.
Looking up at the payload bay and towards the nose cone. So views are going to
70, right where I said,
be a little bit scarce potentially, as again we are in essentially a tumble. We had lost that attitude control. So Starlink, when it's able to connect, able to feed this down. We are at the phase where we would expect entry to start within the next minute or so. So we are entering uncontrolled. Again, we're entering into an airspace and a sea space that is cleared and monitored in advance of launch and before we get to this phase.
And with the views that we are able to see, you are seeing a lot of that plasma build up. During reentry, we do expect the vehicle to see about 1400 degrees Celsius, and there you can see the flap feeling that temperature there, a little bit melting away. But as we expected with the spinning of the vehicle, we are no longer controlling the attitude of the vehicle. So this is now at this point in the test flight. It is expected to see it begin to demise a little bit on its way back down to Earth.
Telemetry's done.
And so we'll stick with it for as long as we're kind of getting any reach back from the ship as it starts to make this reentry. But yeah, so It's re-entering actively right now. And again, we did do what's called passivation. So you essentially vent all of your excess propellant overboard before you hit the atmosphere. That's a safety measure we can take on the ship while you still have contact with it. So that was done. It's now coming down in the predetermined hazard area that was cleared ahead of flight. Not controlled, so we're not going to get all of that re-entry data that we're still really looking forward to.
Feel like we're not getting any more.
This is kind of a new generation of ship. It has different flaps, improved heat.
All right, I'll listen to them a little more. But Engineer says, would you get into a Starship? Not today. No, not today. I would definitely want to wait until they got a little more success. But once they've had some success, yeah, absolutely. And I gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much for that. Let me see if I got everybody. Jack Fetter said that. All right. We had a rud here about less high tech. All right. Sounds like that's about it. I don't know what else. Venting prevents explosion. Yes, it does. So, well, okay. So what did we have? We had we had success in that Starship V2 got much farther than it had in the past. It didn't experience the same problems that they had before. Big success because they had the same failure twice. Having the same failure twice, I'm like, that's rough, right? You have a failure, fix it, get past it. So whatever happened here, a leak, well, that's probably hopefully not that difficult to fix. And then what happened with the booster? Well, the booster it looked like the engines tried to relight. And then,
On-time liftoff from Starbase, Texas at 6:30 p.m. Central Time of the Flight 9 vehicle. We did have some incredibly stressing objectives today. The Super Heavy booster flew for its second flight. It first flew on Flight 9 and made its way to take ship all the way up to stage separation, doing its second flight ever, which is pretty incredible. We did lose the booster on the way back down, as we did fly it back down at a higher angle of attack. So as expected, we did have it demise on the way back down.
Yeah, we were able to get all the way to that landing burn, though. So we made it through that higher angle of attack. So a lot of great data that's going to help us improve those future booster flights.
Yeah, we did do the directional flip, and it worked. Yep. It was actually
Flipped
a great
right
view
direction
that we saw. And then ship continued 6 healthy Raptor engines in the beginning of its flight, making it all the way to Seco and coasting for quite a while. We made it to the expected time that we would open up the payload door.
Okay. They're doing a recap. The last we saw, it was less than 70 kilometers and things weren't going well. They lost all the telemetry. So I think we can safely say that the Starship, there's nothing more about Starship. It tumbled. It had a burn up. So there are a couple things that didn't work out. They didn't relight the booster in Starship. They didn't get the Pez dispenser door to open. They didn't have a controlled reentry. So got some stuff to work on there. They did not have a successful soft landing of the booster there. But they reused a booster. They reused several engines. One of them was reused twice. They got the full Starship burn to go. So things that are good. And DP Debunk says they confirmed the last 2 flights were different failures. Flight 8 did not have the same issue as Flight 7. It was a new one. Okay, well, good. They were in the similar time frame, and there was some speculation that was maybe old data for me. So anyway, human ready in a few more decades. So all right, here's what. Think about this. A decade ago, they were in 2015. The Falcon 9 was still pretty fresh. I think 2013 they were just getting going, maybe. So we're 12, 13 years out from when it was like first getting a bit working well. I don't know, but they've sent a lot of people on it. So they certified pretty quickly after getting some, successful reuses over and over again. So that's good news. And so a decade out, I don't think they're a decade out from getting people up. But they want to iterate quickly. So how long would they like to go for the next launch? My guess is like a month, right? I don't know. I have no inside information, but they want to do these quickly so that they can, do something, fix it, do something, fix it, do something, fix it. And that comes from a software engineering background. That's what I do. When I do something, I'll do a small change and test it, small change and test it, small change. So that's how I do it. Anyway. Yeah, everyone. So when I first heard gonna reuse a rocket, I'm like, nah. And then I heard they're gonna land it on its own legs back on ground. I thought, that's nuts, but okay, cool. And then they said they're gonna land it on a ship. I'm like, oh no, now you're crazy. But it's nothing. It's nothing to land it on a ship now. We don't think of it. It's not even news anymore. Like, oh yeah, they did it 4 times last week. Meh, whatever. So it's nothing. It's so like commonplace now that it's not even newsworthy. So what about launching a rocket and catching it with chopsticks, with arms sticking out? We've done it twice. The first time is like, wow. The second time, pretty cool. And now they're going to do it again, third, fourth, fifth time. Like, yeah, they already did it. Cool. It won't be super amazing because it will have already been done. So there you go. Pretty cool stuff. My testing doesn't have a debris field. Well, that's correct. So it is different, definitely doing having a rocket go boom than having my code just need to get, patched and recompiled. So that's a definite difference. And I feel the difference there. Like they're using metal, they're using fuel, they're using energy, precious components and materials that are difficult to produce and dig up out of the earth and all that. So the problem is landing is the easy part, says Leslie. Real, I think landing is the hard part, because you got to relight the engines. Here's what I don't get. Here's the think about this. You got an engine. You got that coming down with 33 engines there, right? And this is the hottest part, and it's the most air pressure pushing right up against it. They're like, oh, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna pump out some fuel, and we're gonna light it on fire while it's going backwards. Like, that's amazing to me. And they do it like it's nothing now. So, landing is easy. Landing in one piece is hard. I got it. So, and yes, Dustin's Smarter Every Day video about the moon landing problem. I don't know. The whole moon landing thing, like, they are off in the weeds, I think, sometimes. I don't know what's going to go on there. I almost think, like, I don't know if NASA can do it. I don't know. Like, if it's going to happen, it's going to be private enterprise that's going to do it, it seems. Could be wrong. But they're just, I don't know. Destin. Yes. Destin. I think I said Dustin. Anyway, that's what I got. That's what I got for now. We're gonna come back in about half an hour with a debate, and it's gonna be cool. QOP is an all right guy. Pretty decent conversation last I talked with him. So Kango44 for 10 Kiwi bucks says, I was in San Francisco recently, and they have a big fleet of self-driving taxis. Waymo. First time was whoa. Next ride was, yep, this is commonplace. Imagine 10 years ago, it would have been no way. Exactly. like they're, what generation will be the first generation of humans to basically not drive a car? Right? Are they 10 years old right now? Are we six years away? I don't think we're 6 years away. Maybe it's the 6-year-olds and they're 10 years. And 10 years from now, self-driving cars will be so commonplace that the kids that are turning 16 won't have a big press to learn to drive. There will be some group of kids who turn 16 and they're able to get their driver's license. They're like, I don't need to. I can get around all I need. Right? That's going to happen. It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think that. Leslie Rohr says, you test and recompile your code. Microsoft compiles the code, and if it compiles it successful, they ship it. Baba Ali says, I don't drive because we have public transport. Yeah, and so I'm talking, it's different in the United States than in, especially in Europe and other places. And it's different in like the non-urban United States, right? If you live in New York City, it's a whole different thing. Having a car, I can't imagine it'd be a hassle. I wouldn't want to have a car if I lived there. Let's see. Scotty Orange says no. All right, I like this. I like the pushback. It says no, not anytime soon. I hate to rain on someone's parade, but yeah, that's gonna take forever. Oh darn it! I was hoping for something more. So I can think of. I write software. I can certainly think of a whole lot of reasons that the software driving a car can be an issue. And I live in Minnesota, so yeah, good luck driving on snow. That's gonna suck. Because it's going to want to be in the lane, but the lane isn't the lane, and there's other cars that are not in the lane. Like when you take a three-lane freeway, and in the winter, sometimes it's just 2 lanes. You can't see it. You can't see the lines. People are like, we're just going to go in the tracks that somebody laid down in front of me. That's it. So anyway, I'm going to cut it here, and we're going to move on to in just over half an hour, we're going to have a debate. So anyway, thank you everybody for showing up, for coming by. Let's see. Oh, I missed the one here. Pabli73 for 750 Uruguayan pesos says, in the lower right corner, the flying spaghetti monster. I saw that. I was looking for it. I didn't see the flying spaghetti monster in any lower right hand corner, but I definitely I like the flying spaghetti monster. It's kind of fun. Anyway, everybody, thank you very much, and we'll see you in about half an hour.